And that's all I can tell you, Mrs. Pearson. Could be a good fortune, could be a bad one. All depends on yourself now. Make up your mind, and here it is.
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Fitzgerald. It's good that I have a real fortune teller living next door. Did you learn that out east?
Yes. I learned it for 12 years. But will you make up your mind now, Mrs. Pearson dear? Take the first step, and be the mistress of your own house, and be the boss of your own family.
That's easier said than done. Besides, I'm so fond of them even if they are so thoughtless and selfish.
It would be better for them if they learned to treat you properly.
Yes, I think it would.
You think it does them good when you run after them all the time, take their orders, as if you were the servant of the house. You stay home every night when they go out enjoying themselves. It's ruining them as well as you. Husbands, sons, daughters should be taking care of wives and mothers, not giving them orders and treating them like dirt. And don't tell me you don't know what I mean, for I know more than you've told me.
I keep dropping hints.
Hints? It's more than hints that your family needs, Mrs. Pearson.
But it's so hard to know where to start. I keep making up my mind, but somehow I don't know how to begin. Oh! Look at the time! Nothing ready, and they will be home any minute.
Let them wait or look after them for once. This is your first step.
Mrs. Fitzgerald, I agree with you. But I just can't. If I promise you I will deal with them, I know I wouldn't be able to keep my promise.
Then let me do it.
Oh. No. But that wouldn't do it. They wouldn't listen you. I know I should do it, but...
You haven't got the idea.
Didn't you ask me to let you do it?
But not as me. As you.
But you couldn't be me.
We will change bodies. You will look like me, I will look like you.
But that's impossible.
How do you know? Ever tried?
No, of course not.
I have. I learned it in East. Give me your hand.
Well, is it right?
Give me your hand and keep quiet. Just don't think about anything. Look at me. Tada dum, tada lum, tada lem dembona.
See what I mean, dear? Here. You don't want that.
Let me explain. Mrs. Pearson loves her husband and children, but they don't respect her and always make her work. Mrs. Fitzgerald, who is her neighbor, tells her to become bold. But as Mrs. Pearson loves her family so much, she can't. So, they change bodies. Thus, Mrs. Pearson goes into the body of Mrs. Fitzgerald, and vice versa.
Oh, it has happened.
Of course it has happened.
But what will I do, Mrs. Fitzgerald? George and the children can't see me like this.
They're not going to. That's the point. They'll have to deal with me. But they won't know it.
But what if we can't change back? It would be terrible.
Mrs. Pearson, if we can't change back, you'll have to live my life. But that will be more fun than you have ever had.
Yes, but I don't want to be anybody else.
Oh, stop worrying. It's easier changing back. I can do it anytime we want.
Well, do it now.
Not likely. I will deal with your family first. That's the idea.
But what am I going to do?
Go into my house for some time. There is nobody there, and then come back and see how we're doing. You will enjoy it. Better go before anyone comes.
Yes, I suppose. You're sure it'll be all right?
It'll be wonderful. Now off you go, dear.
Mom, you'll have to iron my yellow silk. I have to wear it tonight. What are you doing?
What you think I'm doing, whitewashing the ceiling?
But you're smoking.
That's right, dear. No law against it, is there?
But I thought you didn't smoke.
Then you thought wrong.
Are we having tea in the kitchen?
Have it where you like, dear.
Do you mean it isn't ready?
Yours isn't. I've had all I want. Might go out later and get a square meal at Clarendon.
Who might?
I might.
Mom, what's the matter with you?
Don't be silly.
It's not me that's being silly. It's a bit much when I've been working hard all day and you can't even bother to get up and make my tea ready. Did you hear what I said about my yellow silk?
No. Do you like it? I never did.
Of course I like it. And I am going to wear it tonight. So I want it ironed.
Want it ironed? What do you think it's going to do? Iron itself?
You're going to iron it for me. You always do.
Well, this time I don't. And don't talk rubbish to me about working hard. I've a good idea how much you do, Doris Pearson. I put in twice the hours you do, and get no wages nor thanks for it. Why are you going to wear your yellow silk? Where are you going?
Out with Charlie Spence.
Why?
Why? Why? What's the matter with you? Why shouldn't I go out with Charlie Spence if he asks me and I want to? Go on. Tell me.
Can't you find anybody better? Buck teeth and half-witted.
Buck teeth, large front teeth, half-witted, stupid.
He isn't.
When I was your age, I'd have found somebody better than Charlie Spence, or given up.
Oh, shut up.
Hello, Mum. Tea ready?
No.
Why not?
I couldn't bother.
Feeling ill or something?
Never felt better in my life.
What's the idea then?
Just a change.
Well, snap out of it. Get moving. Haven't much time.
I've plenty of time.
But I haven't. Got a busy night tonight. Did you put my things out?
Can't remember, but I doubt it.
Now, look. When I asked you this morning, you promised. You said you'll look through them, in case there was any mending.
Yes, well, now I've decided I don't like medding.
That's a nice way to talk. What would happen if we all talked like that?
You all do talk like that. If there's something you don't want to do, you don't do it. Now all that's happened is that I've joined the movement.
I don't get this, Mum. What's going on?
Changes. You look terrible. I wouldn't wear that face even for Charlie Spence.
Oh, shut up about Charlie Spence. And anyhow, I'm not ready yet, just dressing. And if I do look terrible, it's your fault. You made me cry.
Why? What did she do?
Never you mind.
Have we any stout left?
Stout, a dark, strong beer.
Bottle or two, I think. But you don't want stout now.
I do.
What for?
To drink, you clot.
Clot, foolish.
Has she been like that with you, too?
Yes, no tea ready.
Well, I'm glad it's both of us. I thought I had done something wrong.
So did I. but it's her off course.
She was smoking and playing cards when I came in. I couldn't believe my eyes.
I asked her if she was feeling ill, and she said she was fine.
Well, she's suddenly all different. And that's what made me cry. It wasn't what she said, but it was the way she said it, and the way she looked.
She looks just the same to me.
Do you think she could have hit her head or something, you know? And God, what is it?
Do you mean she's crazy?
No, you fathead. She might have a concussion.
Concussion, a brain injury caused by a hit to the head, which leads to change in behavior.
Not likely.
He.
Now, then, what is it?
If she's going to be like this when Dad comes home. He.
Ah. I'm staying in for that. I don't want to miss it.
You two are always talking about being grown up. Why don't you both try for once to be your age?
Can't we laugh now?
Yes, if it's funny. Go on, tell me. Make me laugh.
You know, you never understand our jokes, Mum.
I was yawning at your jokes before you were born, Doris.
What's making you talk like this? What have we done?
Nothing. But you come in, ask for something, go out again, and come back when there's nowhere else to go.
Look, if you won't get my tea ready, then I'll find something to eat myself.
Why not? Help yourself.
Mind you, I think it's a bit thick. I've been working all day.
Same here.
8-hour a day.
Yes, 8-hour day, and don't forget it.
I've done my 8 hours.
That's different.
Of course it is.
It was, now it isn't. Now, it's 40-hour week for all. Just watch it at the weekend, when I have my 2 days off.
Must grab something to eat. Seems like I'll need to keep my strength up.
Mummy, you don't mean you're not going to do anything on Saturday and Sunday?
No, I wouldn't go that far. I might make a bed or two, and do a bit of cooking. Which means, of course, I'll have to be asked very nicely and thanked for everything. But any of you 40-hour weekers, who expect to be waited on Saturday and Sunday, with no thanks for it, are in for a nasty disappointment. I might go off for the weekend perhaps.
Go off for the weekend?
Why not? I need a change. I'm stuck here, day after day, week after week. If I don't need a change, who does?
But where would you go? Who would you go with?
That's none of your business. You don't ask where you should go, and who you should go with, do you?
That's different.
The only difference is that I'm a lot older and better able to look after myself, so it's you who should do the asking.
Did you fall or hit yourself with something?
No. But I'll hit you with something, girl, if you don't stop asking silly questions.
Oh, this is awful.
Stop blubbering. You're not a baby. If you're old enough to go out with Charlie Spence, you're old enough to behave properly. Now stop it.
Hello, what's this? Can't be anything to cry about.
You'll see.
Did she say you'll see?
Yes.
What did she mean?
Better ask her.
Stout?
Yes.
What are you drinking stout for?
Because I wanted some.
At this time of day?
Yes, what's wrong with it at this time of day?
Nothing, Annie, but I've never seen you do it before.
Well, you're seeing me now.
Yes, and I don't like it. It doesn't look right. I'm surprised at you.
Well, that should be a nice change for you.
What do you mean?
It must be some time since you were surprised at me, George.
I don't like surprises. I'm all for a steady going on. You should know that by this time. By the way, I forgot to tell you, this morning I wouldn't want any tea. Special snooker match night at the club tonight, and a bit of supper going. So no tea.
That's right. There isn't any.
You mean you didn't get my tea ready?
Yes, and a good thing, too, as it turned out.
That's all very well, but what if I'd wanted some?
My goodness. Listen to the man. Annoyed because I don't get a tea for him that he doesn't even want. Ever tried that at the club?
Tried what at the club?
Going up to the bar and telling them you don't want a glass of beer, but you're annoyed because they haven't already poured it out.
I don't know what you're talking about.
They'd laugh at you even more than they do now.
Laugh at me? They don't laugh at me.
Of course they do. You should have found that out by this time. You're one of their standing jokes, famous. They call you Pompey Pearson because they think you're so slow and pompous.
Pompous, full of self-importance.
Never!
It always hurts me why you want to spend so much time at a place where they're always laughing at you behind your back and calling you names. Leaving your wife at home night after night. Instead of going out with her, who doesn't make you look a fool.
Here, Cyril, you've been with me to the club once or twice. They don't laugh at me and call me Pompey Pearson, do they? Go on, tell me. Do they?
Well, yes, Dad. I'm afraid they do.
Well, I'll be damned.
Now you shouldn't have told him that, Mum. That's not fair. You've hurt his feelings. Mine, too.
Sometimes it does people good to have their feelings hurt. The truth doesn't hurt anybody for long. If your father didn't go to the club so often, perhaps they'd stop laughing at him.
I doubt it.
But what I doubt is whether your opinion is worth having. What do you know? Nothing. You spend too much time and money at greyhound races and dirt tracks and ice shows.
Well, what if I do? I've got to enjoy myself somehow, haven't I?
I wouldn't mind so much if you were really enjoying yourself. But are you?
Might be for me. I'll see. It's that silly old bag from next door. Mrs. Fitzgerald. You don't want her here, do you?
Certainly I do. Ask her in. And don't call her a silly old bag either. She's a very nice woman, with a lot more sense than you'll ever have.
Come in, Mrs. Fitzgerald.
I just wondered if everything's all right.
No, it isn't.
Of course it is. You be quiet.
Why should I be quiet?
Because I tell you to, you silly, spoilt, young pican.
Oh, no.
Now, Mrs. Fitzgerald, just let me manage my family in my own way, please.
Yes, but Cyril.
Mr. Cyril Pearson to you, please, Mrs. Fitzgerald.
Oh, dear, what's happening?
Nothing much. Just putting em in their places, that's all. Doing what you should have done long since.
Is George home?
Yes, I've been telling him what they think of him at the club.
Well, they think a lot of him, don't they?
No, they don't. And now he knows it.
Oh, dear, I wish you hadn't, Mrs. Fitzgerald.
Nonsense. It's actually good for them. Soon, they'll be very eager to please you, you'll see.
I don't think I want them to be so eager to please me.
Whatever you want, they'll do it. All three of them. Just wait and see.
Just came by for a minute, I suppose, Mrs. Fitzgerald?
Well, yes, I suppose so, George.
George?
Oh, I'm sorry.
What does it matter? Your name's George, isn't it? Who'd you think you are? Duke of Edinburgh?
What's he got to do with it? Just tell me that. And isn't it bad enough without her calling me George? No T. Pompey Pearson. And poor Doris has been crying her eyes out upstairs. Yes, crying her eyes out.
Oh, dear, I should have known.
You should have known? Why should you have known? Nothing to do with you, Mrs. Fitzgerald. Look, we're in confusion here, so perhaps you'll excuse us.
I won't excuse you, George Pearson. Next time a friend and neighbor comes to see me, just say something when you see her. Good evening, or how'd you do? Or something. And don't just march in and sit down without a word. It's bad manners.
No, it's all right.
No, it isn't all right. We'll have some decent manners in this house, or I'll know the reason why. Well?
Well, what?
Why don't you get off to your club? Special night tonight, isn't it? They'll be waiting for you, wanting to have a good laugh. Go on then. Don't disappoint them.
That's right. Make me look silly in front of her now. Go on, don't mind me. Poor Doris been crying her eyes out. Getting the neighbors in to see the fun. All right, let her hear it. What's the matter with you? Have you gone crazy or what?
If you shout at me again like that, George Pearson, I'll slap your big, fat, silly face.
Oh, no, please, Mrs. Fitzgerald.
Either I am crazy or you two are. How'd you mean, no, please, Mrs. Fitzgerald? Look who you are, Mrs. Fitzgerald. So why are you telling yourself to stop when you're not doing anything? Tell her to stop, then there'd be some sense in it. I think you must be drunk.
Say that again, George Pearson.
All right.
Hello, Doris dear.
Hello, Mrs. Fitzgerald.
I thought you were going out with Charlie Spence tonight.
What's that to do with you?
Stop that.
No, it's all right.
It isn't all right. I won't have a daughter of mine talking to anybody like that. Now answer Mrs. Fitzgerald properly, Doris, or go upstairs again.
Don't look at me. I give it up. I just give it up.
I was going out with Charlie Spence tonight, but now I've called it off.
Oh, what a pity, dear. Why have you?
Because, if you must know, my mother's been going on at me, making me feel miserable, and saying he's got buck teeth and is half-witted.
Oh, you shouldn't have said that.
Mrs. Fitzgerald, I'll manage my family, you manage yours.
Are you annoying her now, Annie?
They're waiting for you at the club, George, don't forget. And don't you start crying again, Doris.
That's enough, quite enough. Now listen, you two. I want to have a private little talk with Mrs. Fitz, with Mrs. Pearson, so I'll be grateful if you'll leave us alone for a few minutes. I'll let you know when we've finished. Go on, please. I promise you that you won't regret it. There's something here that only I can deal with.
I'm glad somebody can, 'cause I can't. Come on, Doris.
Mrs. Fitzgerald, we must change back now. We really must.
Why?
Because this has gone far enough. I can see they're all miserable, and I can't bear it.
A bit more of the same would do them good. Making a great difference already.
No, I can't stand any more of it. I really can't. We must change back. Hurry up, please, Mrs. Fitzgerald.
Well, if you insist.
Yes, I do. Please, please.
Arsh tada lum. Arsh tada dum. Arsh tada lum dum dona.
Ah, well, I enjoyed that.
I did not.
Well, you should have done. Now, listen, Mrs. Pearson. Don't go soft on M again, else it'll all have been wasted.
I'll try not to, Mrs. Fitzgerald.
Another hour or two's rough treatment will make it certain.
I'm sure they'll do better now, though I don't know how I'm going to explain.
Don't you start any explaining or apologizing, or you're done for.
It's all right for you, Mrs. Fitzgerald. After all, they aren't your husband and children.
Now you listen to me. You admitted yourself you were spoiling them, and they didn't appreciate you. Any apologies, any explanations, and you'll be straight back where you were. I'm warning you, dear. Just give them a look, a tone of voice, to suggest you might be tough with them if you wanted to be, and it ought to work. Anyhow, we can test it.
How?
Well, what is it you'd like Em to do that they don't do? Stop at home for once?
Yes, and help me with supper.
Supper, evening meal.
Anything you'd like them to do, that you enjoy, whether they do or not?
Well, I like a nice game of rummy, but, of course, I hardly ever have one, except at Christmas.
That'll do then. But remember, keep firm, or you've had it. Hoy! You can come in now.
Yes, Mother.
Seeing that you don't want to go out, I tell you what I thought we'd do.
Remember.
No objections, I hope.
No, Mother, whatever you say.
I thought we'd have a nice family game of rummy, and then you children could get the supper ready, while I have a talk with your father.
Suits me. What about you two?
Yes, that's all right.
Well,
What? Speak up.
Oh, I think it would be lovely.
Goodbye, Mrs. Fitzgerald. Come again soon.
Yes, dear. Good night all. Have a nice time.